My Best Friends Live in the Woods. The Adventures of Albert by Anne Michelle Moracek.
In a trance, my spirit flies to the pink horizon of the forest, where fairies say, "Come and play," and the animals say, "There's a better way." An enchanted land of love, my best friends live in the woods.
Chapter 1. Secret Mouse Party.
As we all know, Albert tends to get himself in trouble. Usually his mishaps take place in the forest, but on this occasion it all happened in Mother Skunk's kitchen. Albert and all 23 of his skunk brothers and sisters were out playing when, as often happens, Albert's tummy began to rumble-grumble. Being a growing raccoon seemed to take a snack every afternoon. Mother Skunk, on the other hand, had very strict rules about her pantry. "No one is allowed in the pantry without asking me first," she would scold the children. "I have too many mouths to feed, and the pantry door must remain shut. We don't want to let in the bugs and the mice to eat up all our food." She would point her paw at each one of them, fluff up her tail with a dramatic swish, and trot off with her apron ribbons trailing behind her. Now, Albert remembered the pantry door, something or other, and his hungry tummy told him there's food for a snack behind the pantry door. So, while the game of tag was in full swing, he snuck back into the cave and headed straight away to the kitchen. He tiptoed in, and quietly as he could, he lifted the latch and opened the pantry door. He knew just what he wanted. The gingerbread cookies were on the second shelf in a red crockery pot. It had been a broken flower pot that Mrs. Skunk had found. She had proudly rolled it home, gave it a good scrubbing, and lined it with a white linen napkin. It made quite a lovely cookie jar, and she was proud as punch of her gingerbread recipe. Our cookie thief gobbled one of the golden delights with great satisfaction. Then, with a much happier outlook on life, ran back to the game of tag in full progress. Much to his pleasure, no one seemed to notice his absence. But back in the kitchen, the pantry door stood wide open. And that is really where this story begins. Prinelopy was a mouse of great imagination. When her friends were chattering away about hiding places and seed harvests, she was pretending to be a great explorer in the jungles of Africa. When her friends were complaining of being cold, she was pretending to be leading a team of huskies across the great snowy expanse of the North Pole. On this particular day, Prinelopy was queen of all Egypt, looking for the secret treasures of the pyramids. Her exploring led her right into the kitchen of Mother Skunk. Seeing no one was home, she boldly strode across the floor, pretending she was crossing the sand of the desert. Then she saw the pantry door open. It was never open. Oh, the luck! "Look," she told herself, "the great tomb of the pharaoh is open, and the treasures lie within." Cautiously, she peered inside. She looked up and saw rows of wooden shelves covered with all sorts of delicious treasures, going higher and higher. To a tiny mouse, they seemed to reach up to the sky. "How will I ever reach the first shelf?" she pondered. "I know, I'll go get my friends." She ran back to get help, but when she told all the other mice of her find, they did not believe her. "It's just another of your crazy pretend stories," they all agreed. But she promised them delicious treats and full tummies if they would just come with her. Tempted and just a bit curious, they reluctantly agreed and tiptoed back to Mother Skunk's kitchen. It was just as she had said. The pantry door was open. They scampered inside, but the first shelf was indeed too high for any of them to reach. Even Chad, who was the best jumper of them all, could not reach it. Then Prinelopy cleared her throat and in her best Queen of all Egypt voice she said, "We shall create a pyramid out of mice to reach the first shelf. And I, Queen Prinelopy, shall climb the pyramid to the shelf." The other mice were annoyed at her queen voice and her haughty airs, but they had to admit it seemed like a workable plan. 4 mice made a base. 3 more mice climbed on their backs for a second row. 2 more mice climbed up the 4, then the 3, and made another row. Then Queen Prinelopy climbed up the 4, then 3, then 2 mice, and stood on her toes and with a jump was up on the first shelf. "Hooray for Queen Prinelopy!" they all chattered. Chad called out, "What do you see?" And Queen Prinelopy replied, "Things, wonderful things." She explored the boxes and jars and sniffed at this and that, but everything seemed sealed shut. Her tiny mouse fingers could not lift the box lids or open the jars. But then, leaning against the wall in the back, was a bag with a drawstring. It smelled wondrously delicious. "Corn! I found corn!" she called down to her friends. She tugged at the string, and it opened just enough for her tiny mouse hand to reach in and grab a beautiful yellow corn kernel. She rolled it to the edge of the shelf and yelled, "Catch!" Whoosh kerplop! Down went the golden corn kernel into the waiting hands of her friends. She pulled out 1 kernel at a time, rolled it over the edge, and clapped as each of her friends caught the prize. When they were all busy munching on the golden treat, she pulled out a kernel for herself and sat merrily nibbling. "We'd better go before someone comes back," warned Chad. "True, but I'm stuck up here," a suddenly worried Prinelopy called down. "Don't worry, we'll build you another pyramid, and Queen Prinelopy of the Corn can climb down." And that is exactly what they did. The mice had no sooner scampered off when Albert suddenly remembered the rest of what Mother Skunk had said after the words, "Pantry door." It was, "Must remain shut." "Oh no," he thought, and he ran back to the kitchen. Sure enough, the pantry door was still wide open. Albert peered inside, fearing to see the pantry full of bugs, or worse yet, mice. But all seemed as he had left it. So, with a big sigh of relief, he closed the door and once more ran back to the game of tag. He never found out about the mouse party, and I never told him.